If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Miami, Florida versus Texas A&M. Kicking off Saturday's college football playoff action at noon Eastern Time, you get one of the more entertaining first-round matchups, with the Miami Hurricanes heading to College Station to face the Texas A&M Aggies. Both teams beat Notre Dame early in the year, which is a big part of why the Irish ended up watching this tournament from home instead of playing in it. Miami finished the regular season at 10-2 straight up and 7-5 against the spread, while Texas A&M went 11-1 straight up and 5-7 against the spread. It is worth remembering that both teams spent a lot of Saturdays as heavy favorites. In games where the spread was 7 points or fewer, Texas A&M sits at 4-2 against the spread and Miami at 3-0. The only time the Hurricanes were priced as underdogs was that Week 1 meeting with Notre Dame, when they closed around +3, which is basically where they are sitting again on this playoff road trip. On the surface, Texas A&M's record looks fantastic, but once you look a little closer at what the Aggies actually faced, you see they did not draw many of the top teams in their league. Given the home crowd and comfort of College Station, the Aggies deserve to be favored, but this number still feels a bit rich, especially with their recent turnover issues. They finished the regular season outside the top 100 in turnover rate, and over their last 3 games they have averaged about 2.3 giveaways per outing, which drops them near the bottom of the country over that stretch. Miami, by comparison, sits inside the top 25 in turnover margin and has averaged just 0.7 giveaways per game across its last 3. In a matchup between two defenses that both rank inside the top 10 in havoc outside garbage time, and both sit top 25 in sacks and tackles for loss, protecting the ball becomes a huge difference maker. That is why there is more trust here in Carson Beck in this spot, since he has roughly half as many turnover-worthy plays this season as Marcel Reed, who has piled up 11 such plays since Week 9 on his own. Reed can balance some of those mistakes with his legs, since he does a nice job escaping pressure and punishing defenses as a runner when the pocket breaks down. The problem for him is that Miami has handled mobile quarterbacks quite well this season. Really, the only true dual threat who hurt this defense was FSU's Tommy Castellanos, and most of that damage came in the fourth quarter when the game was essentially already decided. That is not the same thing as being consistently vulnerable. Ball security is one key edge for Miami, and red zone execution is another. The Hurricanes own one of the most efficient red zone offenses in the country, coming away with points on more than 92% of their trips and finding the end zone over 71% of the time, which puts them solidly inside the top 25 in both categories. On the other side, the Aggies sit around 76th in red zone scoring rate and 43rd in red zone touchdown rate. That gap grows even more when you consider that Texas A&M's defense ranks 131st in red zone scoring allowed, giving up points on close to 94% of opponent trips. It is hard to hide from that kind of leak. The Aggies have won 7 straight at home, even if they are just 2-5 against the spread in that stretch, and their fans are some of the loudest you will find anywhere, so it is not exactly a casual road environment for the Hurricanes. That said, it does not mean Miami cannot hang tight and cover the number. Their pass protection has been strong all year, and they should be able to slow down the Aggies' pass rush just enough to let the offense function. Defensively, Miami is tough, especially against the run, allowing only 2.9 yards per carry, and they have forced 11 more turnovers than Texas A&M this season. On the flip side, the Aggies surrender around 4 yards per carry, and Miami has 3 different running backs who can stress that front and keep the chains moving. Texas A&M brings that 11-1 record into this game, but their lone loss came in their most recent outing against Texas, and they did not exactly look sharp in 2 of their last 3 games. Miami has strung together 4 straight wins and scored at least 34 points in each of those contests. Yes, they played in a soft ACC and showed plenty of inconsistency, so there is still some volatility baked in, but they match up very well on the defensive side here. There is also the coaching piece. The writer clearly takes some joy in jabbing Mario Cristobal, but does give him credit for one thing this season, because Miami's defensive line really has become a strength. In this matchup, that group might be the single best unit on the field, and it faces an offense that has looked shakier as the year has gone along. That alone gives enough confidence to back the underdog, even if you still worry about a head coaching decision or two along the way. So while this shapes up as a strong clash between two quality teams on both sides of the ball, the cleaner turnover profile, stronger red zone efficiency, and track record against mobile quarterbacks all tilt slightly toward the Hurricanes keeping this tight. Taking the points with Miami fits the logic of how these teams have played down the stretch. As our first pick for this matchup, the Miami, Florida Hurricanes to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Texas A&M has averaged 36.3 points per game, with about 261.8 passing yards and 192.7 rushing yards per contest, while giving up 21.9 points per game. That is a balanced and dangerous offense, and they have been able to hurt defenses both through the air and on the ground. If they even come close to their usual output, that alone pushes the number upward. Miami is not far behind, putting up 34.1 points per game, with roughly 275.8 passing yards and 150 rushing yards per contest, while allowing just 13.8 points per game. So you have one team that scores a lot and leaks more on defense, and another that scores plenty and usually strangles opponents, and that mix often leads to long stretches where the scoreboard keeps moving. Even a modest defensive performance by Texas A&M may still leave enough room for both attacks to find success. Both offenses have shown they can stack drives, punch in red zone chances, and generate chunk plays. And while Miami's defense is strong, it still has to deal with an Aggies offense that can stress it both vertically and on the ground. Likewise, Texas A&M's issues in the red zone and turnovers can lead to short fields for Miami, which often means quick points rather than slow, grinding drives. Even a couple of sudden swings like that can push a game from relatively controlled to comfortably above the projected line. With those season-long scoring averages and yardage totals on both sides, plus the ability of each team to threaten in multiple ways, it makes sense to expect a game that edges toward the higher scoring side rather than a low-scoring stalemate. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Tulane versus Ole Miss. The Tulane Green Wave and Ole Miss Rebels are squaring off for the second time this season. Only this time everything is on the line in a win or go-home matchup in the college football playoff. Ole Miss comes in off a year where they were right on the doorstep of a conference title shot, finishing just behind Georgia and Alabama for those top two spots in the league race. That kind of finish usually means you were living in the deep end all season, and the Rebels played like it. They are averaging a strong 37.3 points per game with 309.6 passing yards, 22 passing touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. On the ground, they are not exactly shy either, rolling up 188.5 rushing yards per game with 32 scores, which is the sort of balance that keeps defensive coordinators up too late. The last time these two met, it turned into a long afternoon for Tulane. Ole Miss cruised to a 45-10 win at Vaught-Hemingway on September 20th, piling up 548 total yards. The Rebels threw for 307 yards, ran for 241 more, hit 7.9 yards per play, moved the chains for 23 first downs, and went a very healthy 7 of 11 on third downs. Defensively, they held Tulane to 282 total yards, only 104 through the air, 4.1 yards per snap, 18 first downs, and just 6 of 15 on third downs. Ole Miss did cough up one fumble but otherwise played a clean game with only 3 penalties, which is about all you can ask in a blowout. That first meeting really did get away from the Green Wave. The defense could not get off the field, the passing attack never really found a rhythm, and it felt like a classic case of a powerful roster outclassing a group of 5 opponent over 4 quarters. It is tough to picture a radically different script this time, even with the coaching drama hanging over both programs. John Sumrall is headed to Florida and Lane Kiffin is off to LSU, but Sumrall will still be on the Tulane sideline for this one while Pete Golding steps up and runs things for the home team. That kind of short-term shuffle can create noise in the media, but the talent on the field is still the main story. On offense, Ole Miss is humming. The Rebels rank inside the top 10 in both expected points added per rush and expected points added per dropback, and they sit top 16 in net points per drive, which basically says they are efficient no matter how they choose to attack. They also own the #1 quality drive rate in Football Bowl subdivision, and that is a sharp contrast to a Tulane defense that ranks 94th in defensive success rate, even though it did not face a gauntlet of elite offenses during the 2025 campaign. That mismatch alone would worry you if you are holding a green wave ticket. You also do not have the mystery of unfamiliar opponents here. These rosters already faced each other once this season with the same personnel on this same campus, and Ole Miss ran Tulane off the field 45-10. This first-round college football playoff meeting is again on the Rebels' home turf, so you get that same environment layered on top of higher stakes. Coaching changes will absolutely shape the public conversation and might spook some casual bettors, but sharper angles are still lining up on Ole Miss as a clear favorite for a reason. Tulane's best win is probably Duke or North Texas, and as solid as those programs can be, they are nowhere near the caliber of the Rebels roster. Lacey is a huge part of that gap. He is one of the better running backs in the country, has already punched in 20 touchdowns, and he gives Ole Miss a reliable way to lean on Tulane's front for 4 quarters. When you have that level of back behind a high-powered passing game, it becomes very difficult for a defense that already struggled in the trenches in the first meeting to suddenly hold up. Sumrall himself said his team better play a lot different than we played last time. The problem is that unless an entire wave of new talent suddenly appears in the next couple of weeks, that is easier said than done. Tulane's defense has not shown consistent strength on the line of scrimmage, and now it faces a Rebels offense that again ranks first in quality drive rate, 7th in expected points added per dropback, and 39th in points per quality drive. That is not exactly what you want to see on a scouting report. On top of that, the Rebels boast an elite pass defense that can harass Tulane with the pass rush and squeeze windows downfield. If Tulane cannot sustain drives and put together strings of first downs, especially in a loud and hostile environment, this matchup can start to snowball just like the earlier one. Once you fall behind a team with this much firepower, the hill gets very steep very fast. With home field mattering so much in this playoff format, the tilt toward Ole Miss gets even stronger. The Rebels have the more explosive offense, the better trenches, and the more proven scoring profile at this level. I am comfortable backing them to control this matchup again and cover a big number, even if it feels harsh on the underdog. In this spot, betting against Tulane makes more sense than hoping for a fairy tale repeat of something we have not seen from them yet against this opponent. As our first pick for this matchup, the Ole Miss Rebels to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side picked. The Rebels' priority here is simple: win the game, keep the key players healthy, and move on to the next challenge. With a new staff structure in place and a possible showdown with Georgia lurking, there is no real incentive to burn through the full playbook or expose all the clever wrinkles in one game. That kind of mindset usually pushes an offense toward a more straightforward, run-heavy approach once it has built a comfortable lead. That is where Q and Lacey and the rest of the backfield come in again. Once Ole Miss gets in front, it makes sense for them to lean into the ground game, let the clock tick, and avoid unnecessary hits on their quarterback and star receivers. A heavy run script shortens the game, and even for a high-scoring team, that can tug things downward relative to a lofty total. Tulane's situation points in a similar direction. Their passing game is expected to have trouble creating explosive plays against this Rebels pass defense, which means chasing big vertical shots is probably not the smartest path. Instead, the Green Wave are more likely to emphasize the run, try to stay balanced, and hope to string together a few methodical drives that keep their own defense off the field. It is not glamorous, but it is the kind of approach you see from sizable underdogs in a hostile road setting. When both teams are leaning more on the run and less on tempo, drives get longer, possessions get fewer, and there is less room for the kind of wild back and forth scoring that shoots a game into the high totals range. The first meeting landed on a 45-10 final, and with the added incentive for Ole Miss to get ahead, protect people, and get out, there is a reasonable path for this rematch to stay below a similar number. Put simply, a strong lead for the Rebels plus a conservative finishing script, combined with Tulane's likely focus on trying to grind out what they can on the ground, makes a lower scoring outcome more likely than a repeat track meet. The game can still be comfortable for Ole Miss without the scoreboard ever fully exploding. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. James Madison versus Oregon. Oregon did a fantastic job navigating a very tough Big Ten schedule this year, finishing behind only Indiana and Ohio State, both unbeaten in league play. That context matters because the Ducks were not fattening up on soft competition. They still averaged a strong 38.3 points per game with 246.8 passing yards and 218.4 rushing yards per outing. It is a real two-headed attack with 25 passing touchdowns against 6 interceptions through the air and 30 scores on the ground. Doing all of that inside a loaded conference makes the numbers pop even more. James Madison is not exactly shy on offense either. The Dukes put up 37.3 points per game in 2025, with 202.5 passing yards, 24 touchdown passes, and 10 interceptions. On the ground, they added a very nice 245.8 rushing yards per game with 36 rushing touchdowns. They have scored 31 or more points in 6 of their last 7 games, so the scoreboard has been busy in their world too. The catch is that James Madison has not faced a ranked team yet, so the step up in class here is huge. If they can get that powerful run game rolling early, they might be able to hang around on the scoreboard, at least relatively speaking. You can absolutely talk yourself into taking the points with James Madison. The Dukes have won 11 straight games, and on paper, you could argue they stack up with the best teams in the country. They sit 11th in scoring offense, 2nd in total defense, and 9th in scoring defense. This is a winning program that has rarely worn the big underdog tag, showing up as a double-digit dog only 4 times since 2016. Last year, they even beat North Carolina as a double-digit underdog. But then you look at the schedule. James Madison has not really played anybody at the level they are about to see. Their toughest opponent was Louisville back in Week 2, and they lost that one by 2 touchdowns. Now they have to walk into Autzen Stadium, which is a completely different kind of test. Oregon, meanwhile, has been very comfortable in this favorite role. The Ducks are 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 games as a double-digit favorite and 6-3 against the spread in their last 9 when laying 20 or more. Against top-tier competition, they still sit 6th in scoring offense and 11th in scoring defense, which is exactly what you want out of a team laying a big number. We already saw a warning sign for James Madison in the Sun Belt title game, where they struggled with Troy. And to be blunt, Troy's offense is wretched, sitting 119th in expected points added per offensive snap in the regular season. Yet while Goose Crowder was healthy, the Trojans still made life pretty miserable for the Duke's defense. If that group had issues there, Oregon is the kind of opponent that can punish those same weaknesses very quickly. It is not hard to imagine James Madison coming out with a sharp script and maybe grabbing an early score on the opening drive. After that, though, this has all the makings of a one-sided affair once Oregon settles in and starts leaning into its talent edge and depth. We already know what the Ducks can do against strong competition. James Madison is still a bit of a mystery at this level, and this is the game where we finally find out exactly where they stand. Until those questions get answered on the field, I am comfortable laying the points with Oregon and trusting the more proven team in this spot. As our first pick for this matchup, the Oregon Ducks to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. James Madison's ground game is churning out 245.8 rushing yards per contest, which tells you they are very comfortable running the ball and sticking with it. Defensively, the Dukes are allowing just 15.8 points and 247.6 yards per game. Those are not the numbers of a defense that is used to getting dragged into basketball-style shootouts. On the other side, Oregon's ground attack is also strong, averaging 238.3 rushing yards per game. Defensively, the Ducks are giving up only 16.2 points and 274.5 yards per game. So both teams run the ball very well, and both defenses hold opponents well below the kind of totals you might expect from a pure track meet. When you combine powerful rushing attacks with stingy defenses, you usually get longer drives, more clock bleeding, and fewer total possessions. That kind of rhythm often caps the overall scoring even when both offenses are capable. Neither unit needs to abandon the run, and both have enough defensive strength to force punts or field goals instead of constant touchdowns. Put that together, and it makes sense to expect this matchup to land under the projected total rather than explode past it. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.